Thank you, Mr. Chairman or acting chairman. So today, millions of families are behind on their rent. Millions of families who lost jobs during the pandemic, who had their pay reduced, or who lost a loved one. Now, we fought hard to make sure those families will have access to emergency rental assistance and protection from eviction. But the fear of not being able to make rent has been a daily reality for too many families since well before the COVID-19 pandemic. Rents are high because supply is low. Ms. Yentl, right now, is there rental housing available for every family who needs it at a cost that they can afford?
No, Senator Warren, there's absolutely not. There's a pervasive and a long-standing shortage of homes affordable and available to the lowest income renters, such that for every 10 of the lowest income renter households, there are fewer than 4 apartments that are affordable and available to them.
So, in other words, this is just Econ 101. Finding adequate, affordable housing is a challenge because we have a nationwide housing shortage. One problem with the supply has been federal law. Ms. Yentl, why hasn't our country built more affordable places for people to live?
I'd say there's a few reasons. In the private market, certainly their local restrictive zoning inhibits the supply of apartments, and especially affordable apartments, and that drives up costs for everyone. For the lowest income renters, there has been an ongoing underfunding of federal investment in programs like the National Housing Trust Fund that could develop and preserve affordable apartments for the lowest income renters. And for public housing, specifically, the Faircloth Amendment limits the total number of public housing units that can be built to levels that existed back in 1999. So it prohibits any increase of public housing above units that existed back then.
So every time we talk about putting a unit of new federal housing on the market, we have to take a unit off, which means we have needlessly restricted the creation of affordable housing. So we're in a housing crisis. Is there any reason that we shouldn't repeal the Faircloth Amendment?
No, there's no reason. And just to be clear, that prohibition is on public housing units alone,
Yes.
But there's no reason. And repealing the Faircloth Amendment is part of a comprehensive solution to the housing crisis. Yes.
Okay, good. So that's at least a part of addressing that shortage. We can repeal the cap on the number of federally funded housing units. In addition, we can build more housing. Now, President Biden has called for increasing the Housing Trust Fund, a fund dedicated to building, rehabilitating, preserving, and operating rental housing. And I have a bill on this ready to go. By adding nearly $45 billion every year for the next decade in the Housing Trust Fund and making other necessary investments, my bill would create more than 3 million new housing units. Ms. Yentl, let me ask you, that's how we build new housing, but let me ask one more quick question before we quit here, and that is, about the condition of our existing stock of public housing. Is it in good shape?
So first to say, we strongly support your bill to provide $45 billion in the Housing Trust Fund. That is just what we need. And for public housing, some developments that have acquired resources to redevelop in recent years, they are in okay shape. Some are in good shape, but most of the public housing stock is not in good condition, and some of the public housing stock is really in deep disrepair. The housing stock is old, and decades of federal investment by the federal government has resulted in today where we have an estimated $70 billion of capital repairs that are needed to stop the loss of units to obsolescence and decay, and also to restore it to livable conditions for the people who live there today and to preserve it for future generations.
Yeah, make an investment. You gotta take care of what we own. I just reintroduced a bill with Representative Nydia Velázquez to do exactly that, to invest $70 billion in addressing the repair backlog. It isn't a mystery why we have an affordable housing crisis. Through decades of underinvestment and unnecessary restrictions, Congress has helped create this crisis. That means that Congress can help fix it by making serious investments in increasing the supply of affordable housing and expanding public housing for the first time in decades. We need to do this as soon as possible. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.